Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Electric People. Let's talk about our boy, Uncle Dean, Dean Andrus. Been with the company for a year now. This quarter marks his first full quarter with the company. We call him Uncle Dean because he's Taylor Turnbull's uncle. And I actually had Taylor co-host with us today. And so the conversation between him and Dean is super awesome. Dean is incredibly competitive. He actually mentions that in the episode a couple times, but he mentions it with kind of a tone of, you really don't understand how competitive I am. He's one of those ones that sees a target and it like sears and implants in his mind, and he runs it down and chases it. So really cool to hear. Also cool to hear about how he started up. Now, if you're new to this company and feel like you have challenges in getting started, this is a great episode. You need to drink in Dean's mindset and pay close attention to the way that he performed despite all odds. But Dean's combine was not an indication of how good he was going to be. And so if you feel like maybe your start was slower, that's actually how mine was. My start was a little bit slower than I thought it was going to be. And grew over time. If that resonates or sounds true to you, if you're in that right now, I think this conversation will be insightful and impactful. He talks about how to manage distance in a family. You know, he's got part of his family that's out of state, and how he dealt with lifestyle change. And Dean has been newly promoted now. He's been franchised, and now he's newly promoted to a market leader in Thousand Oaks. So he's got a lot of plates spinning, and he's in the phase of evolution and high performance all at the same time. It's a beautiful mess. So also super high accomplishment in his first full year. Dean was a captain in the Run X Tour and the third highest ranked captain. I don't know if that's ever happened before. So we've had other people in their first year be captains, and we actually had a couple of them this year, but Dean went in with the high ranking, and it was pretty awesome to see. So with that, as we drive to and from Hood, please enjoy this episode with Uncle Dean Andrus. The street is where we create. We call it suburbanpreneurship.
Mixing big company resources with an entrepreneurial spirit.
This is Electric People.
Pretty cool. When you got a lot of friends that contribute,
yeah,
then it doesn't take that much.
Then a lot is possible.
Yeah, a lot is possible. Hey,
All
you're
right.
you're just sitting here with a couple of Idaho farm boys, right?
Yeah, just a couple familial genes
right.
flanking me here. Dean, you're in Thousand Oaks now.
I am.
That's hallowed land.
It is. You know, I just listened to a podcast. Actually, again, I'd heard it before, but it was when Dave had his record quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But you were managing TO. Dave Mattson came to TO. So yeah,
As a rep.
As
He
a
wasn't
rep.
ready to be a manager yet.
Well,
Dave
he wanted
had-
to. You know, he wanted to be that's one of my favorite things. I've said that over before when he's like, "Hey, what office do I get?"
Mm-hmm.
And Chan said, "Well, how much soul have you sold yet?"
All of the senior leaders here have literally like chopped down their own like wood and built their cabin. Literally, like that early group earned it from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You know, because Dave had been established in alarms. Like he'd done a lot of volume. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was wild times. You were listening to that?
Yeah, I've listened to it once, actually, about a year ago when I started. Taylor sent it to me, and then I just listened to it again actually last week. And but yeah, it's been fun. TO obviously has a lot of potential, and I look forward to growing it into even a little bit of what you guys did. That
Yeah,
would be
man, it
awesome.
needs it, and it can take it. You know, so you guys know each other well.
Yes, we do.
Uncle Dean, you're officially Uncle Dean. You cool with that?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Sally Warren was just in here. She's franchise Sally. You're Uncle Dean. I'm not sure which name's better.
That's right.
So how'd you get lined up with the opportunity?
That's a good story. So I was in Utah, obviously the last 25 years. That's where I raised my kids.
But you're from Idaho?
Originally from Idaho, born and raised
From IF?
Idaho Falls. Yeah.
Go Tigers.
Yeah, in fact,
It's amazing you know that.
Yeah, it's one of the only things I know. I actually know about the Tigers and the Ligers. Were you there for the Liger outbreak in Idaho
yes,
Falls?
I was. That was more, I think, more Rigby. But actually, where we used to have our farm, there was a guy that raised all kind of Ligers
Yeah.
and stuff.
Do you know the Vos family?
the Vos?
Dustin Vos and Natalie Vos.
We
Anyway,
know, yeah, we know
you know the
Dustin.
Vos. So Natalie used to always tell us about when the Ligers got loose in Idaho Falls, and I didn't believe it for even 5 seconds. And she's like, I'm going to get you a newspaper clipping. And in my head, she's like, the Ligers took over the town. And I was like, one, I'm not sure ligers are real. Two, they certainly didn't take over Idaho Falls. And she actually found me the news thing where some guy had ligers and they got out.
Yeah.
But I was picturing they were like driving the school buses and they had like overtaken the town.
What year was it? Do you know? Do you
I don't
remember?
know. Yeah,
I'm trying to think what year it was, but yeah, I remember when it happened, but
The ligers got loose, guys.
the ligers got loose. There's pictures of ligers. They're actually gigantic.
Yeah, it's certified.
It is
authentic.
There's receipts.
We're generational Idaho people, going back a couple generations. You know, so both sides of my family, the Andrus side, which is the side my mom's.
So your mom's an Andrus.
Yeah, Dean is my mom's youngest brother. 10 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're the youngest of 10?
Yeah. I'm the 9th of 10. So I'm the youngest son. So I have 4 brothers and 5
Wow.
sisters. And yeah, I mean, I was born and raised on a farm.
What kind of farm?
I was potato and wheat, and then we had cows and animals we had to feed. Like,
Farmers make the best like sales leaders. Like honestly, this whole industry is like based off of like farmers turned salespeople. It really is.
And people say farm strong, like they use that word farm strong. And my mom was always like, she's so physically strong. So
she
I was
really
with her over Thanksgiving, and you know, she's in her mid 60s now, and she did 70 push-ups in a row.
Straight?
Yeah, 70 push-ups.
You know, I saw a thing the other day of Floyd Mayweather talking about how many push-ups he would do, and he would do up to like whatever 1,500 a day or something.
Yeah.
But in a row, he could do 140.
Yeah.
100 like maybe 43. So think about that.
Yeah, she can do 70
That's insane.
in her 60s.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
and if someone did 75, she'd do 76.
She's
People
so
don't
competitive.
understand. Remember
So
when
true.
we were doing a push-up like daily routine thing for a while, and I had gotten to the point where I could do a lot of push-ups. And so
70's
you
a lot.
don't think that that's a lot, but drop down and try it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason I bring that up is because when Dean was coming out here to do the job, there's always that question of, are you going to be able to do it or not? Right? Because it's a really hard job, and there are people who are made for it and people who aren't made for it. And my Aunt Amy said, "Oh, Dean's farm strong. He'll figure it out." And so I think that, you know, that really is that thing when you say like the industry in a lot of ways was built. Todd Peterson was from Idaho Falls.
He's actually a good basketball player. He's
Yeah.
a year older than 2 years. He graduated 2 years older than me.
Oh, really?
So yeah.
Same high school?
No, he went to IF.
He was
Lower
IF and you were
Skyline,
Skyline, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Wow.
same kind of thing.
Yeah, but that just kind of stuck with me from the beginning, because at the very start, when you first started, you had a pretty adverse circumstance befall you, right?
Yeah. It wasn't ideal, that's for sure.
Yeah, you should talk about that.
Talk about the story and the forecasting thereof. You were sharing that with me before we started.
So when I decided to, I owned a car dealership with my brother, who was also my best friend since I've been a baby. He's always taken care of everything, super close to him, and that was a tough decision to leave the car industry. But I just felt like I needed a new challenge in life. And I talked to Taylor, and when I finally decided to do it, I actually sold my house, and I actually gave all my furniture and stuff to my kids. And when I came to California, I literally got my Audi and my clothes, and that was it.
Was it an Audi dealership?
What's that?
Was it?
No, it was
an Audi
independent, so we
Okay.
sold
right.
all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I actually texted Taylor on my trip down and said, I just napalmed the bridge, man. There's no going back. So yeah, I came down and started. And
What drove you to close the dealership and come do this?
the
instead?
dealership's still open and
Oh,
doing
it
really
is.
well. Yeah.
You just decided to.
You know, I just I got to a point in my life. My children were pretty much raised at that point, and the car dealership, I kind of was just to the point where I didn't really feel challenged as much. I kind of wanted a new start from, because I'm also got divorced about 6 years ago, and I'd been in Utah the whole time, and I just kind of felt like I just needed to do something else that could challenge me. I hadn't really been challenged in a long time. I wanted to grow, and I don't know, and then talking to Taylor, I mean,
Sure.
he can sell oceanfront property in Montana. So like, you know, I came down thinking it was going to be.
The other thing about farm strong people is they got all these sayings. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
It's like
That's really true.
the
Castle's
ocean-
full of them.
Yeah, it's like, what do you guys just sit out there and just think of clever stuff? You know, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, we do. You know, there's lots of good one-liners that you get out on the farm.
I was
So-
gonna recite some that I know, but most of them aren't like, they're not like appropriate. You know what I mean? Like, they
Yeah,
also
yeah,
get a
that's
little,
they are a
like-
little salty.
You also push the line.
There's
out
some
there a
salty
little bit.
colloquialisms that they use out
That's
there for
right.
sure.
So it just felt like you wanted a challenge.
Yeah,
Time for a new chapter.
yeah. So
That can be scary though, huh?
yeah, you know, to leave, I had a very comfortable life, you know, back home. I'd actually see Paul Dixon 1 row in front of us at the Jazz game. That's where our season tickets were at. You know, I've been in Utah my whole life. That's where my family's at. My family literally means everything to me. So moving away from my brother and my children and my family, you know, my mom still lives there, super close to her, super close to Taylor's mom, my younger sister. They're all there. So that was very difficult to leave them. But I knew for myself that I had to come give it a shot.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you get here and you start in the combine.
Yeah, so I started the combine like middle towards the end of October, and about my 7th day in, it was late at night, and I was walking through a parking lot, and there was actually a hole in the concrete, and I literally just stepped in it and tore some ligaments in my ankle. So, you know, that's where the farm strong comes. I mean, I'd already had a couple ACs, so I was on the clock. I actually texted Taylor, and I'm like,
you started your combine.
yeah, it started. So I texted Taylor, I'm like, hey, can I? And he's like, no, man, you can't. So went out and got a boot and just strapped
You
the
just
boot
like
on. And
self-diagnosed. You like, I need a boot.
well, you know, from playing basketball so much, I was a pretty good athlete growing up. Playing basketball so much, I've hurt my ankle so much. I'm like, even if it's kind of the same thing, no matter what. So they're gonna put me in a boot.
Where does one
anyways.
get a boot? Where does one procure
There's
such an
medical
item?
supply stores all over the place.
Really? That a
Yeah.
guy can walk into and splint up?
Yeah, you can go into like literally, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought you like had to get it from a.
Now you don't have to get it from a doctor. That's
That's what they want you to think.
yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I just went to medical supply store, got a boot, started wearing it, went out to work the next day.
But you knew it wasn't like broken or anything like that, or what?
Well, I mean, if it's broken, they're just gonna put you in a cast anyway. So I mean, they're gonna cast you or boot you,
Yeah.
one or the other. So you know, just like I don't have insurance anymore, so I'm not
You
gonna
are
go
farm
spend.
strong, dude. I'm like, don't move. It might be broken. Like, nobody move. And you're like, if it's broke, it's broken. It'll stay broken until I fix it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't get that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no. So I actually I got a welcome call like 1 or 2 nights later, and I sent Taylor actually a text, showed him my ankle because it was just swollen and bruised.
Dude,
and
it
just looked
looked
gnarly.
so bad. I remember when he texted me about it, and I was like, I wonder how bad it is. And then he sent me a picture. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude.
You're like,
You
you're
should
thinking-
probably stay off that
You're
thing.
thinking he might be soft, and then you see it, and you're like, goo.
Yeah.
So and then Taylor actually texted me back, and he was like, "No, it looks gnarly," and he's like, "This is gonna be such a good chapter in your story when you're on Electric People and you're talking about your broken ankle." And I was a week into my combine, and reality had stepped in on what this job was going to entail a little bit, and so
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's a good one, Taylor. Like, for trying to foresee myself ever being here when I'd listen to you and Dave Mattson on this podcast. I mean, I was like, yeah, that'd be a more of an episode of Punk than anything else if you told me that a year ago. So it's super just humbling to be here with both of you guys. I mean,
Literally like a year to the quarter. Like it was Q4 of 23, right?
right. Yeah, the
A year
quarter
later.
was.
It's crazy. You know that thing that you overestimate what you can do in a month, and you underestimate what you can do in a year. But like, if you think about that, in some ways that probably seems like a lifetime ago and not all that long ago.
It does.
Right?
It's both. So it does. It seems like a lifetime ago, and just knowing I was coming on this, I kind of just went back and just gone over the different things that have happened to me the last year, and it does seem like a lifetime. At the same time, it's it seems like yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they say when you're raising kids, the days are long, but the years are short.
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely long days, but this year went by, super, super quick. And, looking back on it, it's just amazing just to just look at the journey I've had. And just every day just so grateful, for this company, and especially the leaders. I think I have it better than obviously most people coming in, and obviously having a nephew who I think is probably one of the best motivational speakers and trainers that there is. To have him to kind of help give me encouragement and things like that. And then he put me in the perfect office. I had the perfect mentor with Corey. And then having
Another farm strong guy, huh?
another farm strong guy. Corey
Idaho
and I,
guy.
yeah, potato farmer just like me. And then
Sterling
having Sterling as well has just been
Not
amazing.
a potato farmer.
Not a potato farmer,
But could be. He's
yeah,
got that
just-
potato farmer vibe, like he seems like he could come from
just,
that.
So I've been very blessed and fortunate. I was just put in the right place with the right people, and that just helped foster my growth and development.
Well, I'm going to challenge that a little bit, because a lot of people are put in that position and don't have the same results as you. You know what I mean? Like, I think, I don't know. I'm actually really interested in like the stats and walk us through your path. So start the combine a year ago, right? Do you remember how many you did in your combine?
I did like 12
12.
welcome calls
Okay.
as well. I didn't have a fantastic combine. I was going through some things.
No, that's still, though, it's probably on pace with Premier, because in order to get 12, you probably had to have at least.
It was 60 days. So
So how many, but do you know, it was 60
back
days,
then
yeah.
it was 60 days.
So do you know how many,
I think so.
how many like sales you had? How many like customer signatures you had?
Yeah, I only had 12.
Oh, you had 12 signatures
Yeah.
and welcome calls. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but that's still double what most
He was
people do.
when he came in,
and in half the time.
yeah, when he came in, he was thinking, like, how do I hit franchise the first quarter? And it's hard because when you start in Q4, I think it's the most challenging quarter to start, because
Did you start in Q4?
I started in Q1.
Oh, I thought you were Q4. I
No.
started in Q4.
Yeah, I think Dave started in Q4.
I think Dave started in Q1.
Oh, did he? It was
Yeah.
a Q1. So, so I started in Q1. It's hard to start in the dark times of the year in California in general, but like
Anyway,
when it gets dark early, it's probably not hard to actually start then, because you learn it. Like, you're kind of born into like knocking in the dark, which is a good thing. But in Q4 you have the holidays, and so you just you get momentum going, and then it kind of gets, Thanksgiving hits, and then you try to push again, and then Christmas hits, and then there's less engagement on the threads and things like that. So I think for you, that starting in that probably affected you somehow, right? So
It did, yeah.
when you came back in January, it was like, okay, I really got to get after it now.
Plus, if your family's in Utah, there's some travel in Q4 that makes the consistency hard,
There's travel. I was also in a long distance relationship.
Oh, you were?
And
Where was she?
She was in Utah.
In Utah.
Yeah, and so there was travel involved.
Are you still in that relationship?
No, I'm not.
Long distance relationships are the worst.
They're hard.
They're so hard.
She's,
I shouldn't say they're the worst, but
No, it's
They
just
are.
A lot of work.
It is.
It's just a lot of work.
It is,
Yeah.
especially when you were in a relationship before, actually in person, and then when you change it to long distance, it's
yeah, it's just
It's a
hard.
lot.
The hard part is you're occupying different spaces and realities, and so it's hard to connect
right.
emotionally and be on the same page when you're in different worlds. It's just hard. People
Right.
do it, but it's hard.
So I went home that I wasn't pleased at all with my performance at that point. Still trying to figure out
You
things.
come home with performance you're unhappy with and in a boot somehow.
The
A
ankle
self-diagnosed
was
boot.
luckily feeling better by about Christmas time. But when I went home that Christmas, I guess that was 2023. Just had a long look in the mirror. I knew I wanted to be. Just coming to work here, there was only one reason I came down here, and it wasn't to be mediocre. That's not how I really do anything in my life. So if I wasn't going to try to be the best, then I wasn't interested in coming here.
It's got to be a hard reality, though, to have like Taylor tell you about the opportunity, like with enthusiasm and all that it's done for like all of our lives, right? But then there is that look in the mirror moment where you're like, what did I do? Like, obviously, there's that quote by Kobe Bryant that says something to the effect of, you can't possibly expect this to be easy, right? Like he says, and so it's like, I think a lot of people look at the comp plan and they're like, all right, yeah, I'm all in. And then they're like, they have that moment where it's like, you had it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? I had it when my conversion was, when I had a 90% cancellation rate, and I was like, God, this is gonna be a lot of work.
I hadn't felt that way since I was, dropped off at a certain place in Provo.
Yeah.
For 2 years. I hadn't felt that kind of like, all right, you're going to do this, but how are you going to do this now? Because I've always been in sales. I've always been really good at sales. Come from, worked with a couple Fortune 250 companies before I opened the car dealership. I have my degree from BYU. Got my Series 7, 65, 63. It was kind of funny when Dave was talking about how when he quit his security job to get a real job, and he talked about
the sea of opportunity.
The sea of opportunity, the cubicle. You need to go back and change that. But it's kind of the same thing. I got my degree. I got my Series 7 is to sell stocks or variable securities,
financial services, pretty
and
much,
insurance, right? But it's kind of the same thing. I got into it, and it was I had the same, one of my actual mission companions from Wyoming. I hadn't talked to him forever, and the same thing. I called him, and he was like, "Oh, it's so good to catch up." I'm like, "Yeah, hey, have you ever thought about your life insurance?" And he's like, "Oh my God, really, dude?" So it was when I heard that, I was like, "Yeah, I relate to that." And then my brother and I.
Hey, real quick though, what was your method? Was it the, hey man, long time, or was it, did you get to the point quick and then?
No, we caught up for, it was.
So then you dropped the bomb on him.
Yeah. Well, I was like, hey, we need to get lunch together. I'll come I'll come see you. So went and saw him, and
yeah, that's a grind though. That's the same thing. It's the same kind of work. I had a buddy that sold with me in alarms and then went on to do insurance. He had this, like, he's a good salesperson, and obviously sales work better on salespeople, right? And he kind of cut right to the chase and was like, listen, you're gonna get insurance from somebody. You might as well get it from your friend. And I was like, fair point. Ended up doing it. Make it easier to not do that, or to do than to not do,
Right.
But that's the same thing, like having to cold. In fact, in some ways, it's probably harder, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is a way to look at it for sure. The car dealership was a little different because, it's kind of like your welcome call is coming to you. I mean, with the advertising, customers walking in the door, basically it's your welcome call. And so I wasn't out. What's that?
In owning the dealership, are you there late? Are you there like?
That's it's kind of funny. Like, I worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
People are always like, you work so hard, and I'm like, no, I don't. I work long hours. I don't work hard. Like, I worked hard when I was little. Like, I remember my dad, when I hear his cowboy boots upstairs, and it was 4:30 in the morning, I knew what was happening next. And he'd yell down, "Boys, let's go." And we knew it was time to go. And
good for him,
it's cold.
Man.
It's 5:00 in the morning. We're moving pipe, and then you work all day, and then you do it again at nighttime. I mean, that's actually hard work.
That's hard.
Working long hours I don't equate to working hard.
I always struggle with, is the job really hard? I always struggle with that because you understand it emotionally in a way where it's like, and you have to you have to drive yourself to do things, and you have to have like all of these like inborn like traits, right? Like you have to have mental strength, you have to have fortitude, you have to keep vision, you have to keep working. You're unsupervised, you have autonomy, all that stuff. But I would rather do that than what you described in Idaho, laying pipe at 5 a.m. Oh gosh, like that is actually hard, and like undisputable hard.
It is. It is.
And you're how old when you're doing that?
Like 10, like 12 years. We were little. One of us would have to be in the middle, one on the end, because you couldn't lift it by yourself. I mean, you started at a young age.
Yeah, and Dad's like, I do it by myself, but I literally need you.
Yeah.
You have 10 kids because you have like some staff.
Yep, exactly.
And you split them up, free labor. Five boys, 5 girls, so that there's like all the help you need in every different way.
Well done.
Yeah.
Andrus does know how to roll.
Yeah, totally.
So back to the look in the mirror moment. You're home in Utah, just through your combine. What have I done? What happens next?
I knew that I wasn't okay with just being good. I mean, because I felt like I was doing a pretty good job. But I knew I had to change, some things if I wanted to. I knew that I wanted to make franchise. That wasn't an option. I mean, when Taylor talked to me, that's all he talked about was franchise. When you hit franchise, and like I said, I don't really like to do anything unless I want to be the best anyway. So it was more of like, what are you going to do to go to that next level? Back in the old days in retail, it's called SMART. You probably heard of that before, but
Like
it has to be specific. No, specific, measurable, achievable.
Yeah.
So I kind of went back to that and I'm like, all right, what specific things are you going to do when you go back to make this happen? I knew I had to not go home on weekends. Obviously, Fridays, Saturdays are obviously the big days. Creating all your accounts on Saturdays. So I knew I had to clean, I knew I had to change that. And then I just knew that I was going to, consistently going to be in hood 6 hours a day, following the 6x6. And I think I made specific goals of how many ACs I was going to have to get, how many welcome calls to kind of get going. And when I came back and started doing that, obviously the law of the harvest is in play and things just start to happen, and then momentum kicks, and then, some fortunate things happened as far as, some customers I met, and it just, it took off. Next thing you know, I'm the silver rabbit. And
there's a couple things. You had a little bit of motivation that helped from that note that you got, right?
Yeah, definitely.
That was a pretty cool thing. You don't have to share it, but it was when you shared it with me.
You have a note, a tangible note on the table.
Yeah.
What is this note?
I brought it. This is a note that. So when I this is why I didn't bring the note.
Do you want me to read it?
Oh, absolutely. If we get to that point, you're reading it, because it's just like. But
we fill in for each other.
I have
the emotions
my children are like everything to me. For all my failures in life, being a good dad isn't one of them.
What are the ranges of your kids? How old are they now?
My oldest son's 20. Let's see.
Is he 26?
26.
Wow.
My second son's 23, going on 24. He's the one that's getting married next month. And then my sons, they'll know that. They always say that they know she's the favorite anyways, but
you just got the soft spot in your heart for Berkeley.
Yeah, my daughter.
That daughter comes last anyway. Yeah, that's a...
But when I came down here, she came a week earlier with her friend, and she went to my apartment, and because like I said, I brought no furniture, so she was nice enough to go get me an air mattress and like a couch, and I came and she'd stocked my fridge. And
she's how old?
She's 19 now, going on 20.
She's taking care of Dad.
Yeah. So, and then she left this note on the counter for me, and so when I came back in January, I'd put that in my dash every day, and I'd be like, if you're not going home tonight until you get 3 ACs. And I'd be like, if something, if you had to get 3 ACs for her, would you do it? And it'd be like, I'd knock 1,000 doors to get 3 ACs. But yeah, she left me this note, and it's kind of been my motivation. It still is.
She said, "Dad, I'm so proud of you for taking this step for a better life. No matter how hard it gets, there is nobody more capable of it than you. I look up to you so much and can't wait to see you succeed. I'm your biggest fan. I love you so much. Love, Burks."
Daughters are the best.
Yeah.
Boys are great too.
Boys are awesome. My sons are the best.
What a special thing, man.
Yeah. So I use that. As my
what a
motivation.
conscious kid though too, right? Like you think about what you're doing at 19. Generally, like she's starting her life. She's going into the world. Everything is about like what she's going to do in the next couple of years, and that's appropriate for that phase. But to spend the time like to see her dad like that, I feel like that usually happens 10 years later. You know what I mean? And then just to say like, hey, like you spend your whole life pouring into her, and then she can kind of return the favor. What a crazy thing.
Yeah, that's been one thing I feel very, very blessed for is, all the deposits I put into my children's bank. I'm getting the withdrawals, like,
investments.
And anyone that knows Dean would say this, but he's a phenomenal, he lived his life for his kids. So the people who are the closest to him, Amy would say that, like she said it to me, like he lived his life for those kids. And they were always invested in every tennis tournament, every match that they had. It was like he was there. His boys both played tennis at BYU and were amazing. And he was just always there for him. And so he is, when he talks about his kids and gets emotional, we all love our kids, but he really put in the deposits over the years.
That's amazing, man. How cool that you have that. As you're, we always talk like the senior leaders and like down to like the market leaders. So you're dealing with this now, but we have kind of this formula that we put them through to like plan and to like construct their goals and their motivation and stuff. So we call it electric triangle. Have you been through the electric triangle? You just outlined it perfectly. So the first thing is your vision. Like, why are you doing it? So that's a really cool, like you have it on your dash. You have a tangible thing on your dash so that on the days that you might not feel like it or the times that are going to come up when you're not loaded up on vision, you have something like, it's like a totem, right? It lets you know like, hey, you're in the world and like, this is what you're focused on. But then you have your victory, your targets, like your goals, right? So even your things like, okay, well, I'm going to do this many accounts and I'm shooting for franchise and this means I have to do this. And then the programs that come next are, all right, so in order to hit those numbers, in order to maximize this for my kids, I gotta not go home on weekends. So that's a program that you just put in place. And it's crazy that once it starts going, it really does ignite, right? And so you said, oh, well, then I met some people and then I got lucky and then I got some sales. But that's how it works. People are drawn to electricity, right? You just have to ignite you have to activate it, and then you can draw it all in. But I think that's such a perfect example of like, you knew why you were doing it. A lot of people that are struggling, if you were to shake them and say, hey, why are you doing this job? They don't have something that gets them emotional like you do. Right. And then how do you have a goal that means anything if it doesn't point to that? Right. And then do you have systems that support that target? Because the thing that I find in a lot of successful people, a lot of franchise level people, and I think we've both felt it too, is you said, if I have to knock 1,000 doors, I'm going to do it. It's like, hey, listen, I am hitting this. How I hit it, I don't care. Like I'll knock 1,000,000 doors. I'll knock 1,000 doors. I'll travel. I'll do this. I'll talk to them. I'll go here. I don't care what I got to do.
Right. It's like I told you out in the lobby when I was like, I have all these, reps because I did it so fast, making franchise, back to back and the 3-peat coming here soon, of like, I want to make franchise. I want to make franchise. And everyone says they want to make franchise, but it's like, do you really want to make franchise? Because if you do, you got to take a hard look in the mirror on what am I going to change about myself? Do I go out with my friends too much? Do I drink too much? Am I in a toxic relationship? I mean, you have to get your mind clear first off. And then you have to decide. The second thing for me is I'm going to outwork everybody. One of my heroes, he said, without hard work, nothing grows but weeds.
Who said that?
Gordon B. Hinckley.
Oh. That's great. I hadn't heard that before.
And so, that's one thing I can control, right? I can control how hard I work. And the funny thing is a couple weeks ago, Corey, did a call and he sent out to the top 4 reps in Atomic West. What's something that you will not, miss out on? And the funny thing, all of us didn't, we didn't know what we were going to say. And all 4 people, Jeremy, Carlos, Bennett, and myself, we all said the same thing. We have a schedule. We don't deviate from it. For me this year, I don't take vacations pretty much unless they're Sunrun sponsored ones. And in fact, I just actually missed the last combine because I was at 8 installs and I knew I needed to stay home and do some stuff to even have a chance this quarter.
Fast forward, a week and a half, and you're at
18 scheduled.
That was a good decision.
Yeah.
You go to Cancun later.
Well, no, I told Sterling because I was debating him, and I literally said, if I go to Cancun, I won't enjoy 1 second of it. Yeah. I'll hate it.
The seasons, right? There's timing for it, right? There's a time where it's appropriate, and there's a time where you choose to stay back. The thing that I'm always interested in is I'm really interested in the people that make those decisions for themselves. In running a sales org, a lot of our job is trying to align incentive with behavior. But what I found is the people that rise up and end up like really like driving this job the way it's willing to be driven, they don't subscribe to goals that the establishment, us, give them, right? They basically say, like, I mean, Taylor's a friend, family member, mentor, but I never called you and said, I expect you to be franchised. It's there. You saw it. It's your goal. So it's 1,000 times stronger, right? But we do put these things in place. Like we have a travel policy, right? And it's there, but if you're running by our policies, you're at the bare minimum, right? Because there's 4,000 people that are in the street, right? And so we have to have blanket policies for everybody. So if you're a top performer, a blanket policy is not going to work for you. So if we say, for example, like, okay, well, the expectation, the lowest allowable expectation is that every rep is in club. The successful people look at it and they're like, I don't even know what that means. It's like we always say you can graduate college with D's, but most people are like, well, I'm not going to get a D. Right. But a lot of people, I don't think, look at it like that. But as I hear you talk, it's like no one called you and said, I don't think you should take this trip. You looked at it, you're like, I've got goals. I need to make a decision. This one doesn't fit. You're directing your own life.
And if you would have called me, I probably would have said, dude, come on the trip. Yeah, like you're going to be fine. And so even you might have received that same, if you would have asked Ty, he might have said the same thing. But the fact that it was your vision and it was your victory metric, like that's what made you put in that additional effort.
Right. I see a lot of reps that are really, really good, and they'll start to have a good week and have a couple welcome calls, and then you see them take it the rest of the week off. You see them out places with their girlfriends or whatever on a Friday. It's like, that's where you're missing the flow. That's where your weeks go from having a good week to great weeks, and then your great weeks turn into amazing week. And when you get in that rhythm, like that's why I like to get in that rhythm when everything just flows and everyone's going to get approved for credit and everything just seems to go good. And you have that, right? And so when you're starting to have that, it's like that's when you got to put your foot on the gas.
Yeah. But the world, like your background does that. Like think about if you inconsistently plant, right? Or if you plant all your seeds and prep the ground and then you don't manage it, water it, work it. It's like the hard part was getting up and planting all this stuff. It's not that hard to just keep going. But
I was just in Castle's office this last week, and he, his region's called the farm.
Right.
And so he has all these things on his wall that are, different kind of mottos that they stand for. And one of them is earth speed. And so it's like there are certain things that just take time. Right. So the law of the harvest is like you do have to plant, you do have to cultivate everything, but you can't if the harvest is going to happen in the fall because you planted in the spring or whatever, like the harvest isn't going to happen right after the spring is over. You can't accelerate it like it's earth speed, like things kind of happen. And I think a lot of times people will put in the effort in the job, and then they'll start to see some results. And so then they'll kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit and then kind of start to work a little bit less. But it's like, because they aren't continuously planting, they aren't continuously cultivating, they don't get the momentum building like what you're talking about. They actually miss out on that stuff. And I think that's the difference. I always tell people when they start this job, the first 6 months will be the hardest 6 months of anything you've done in your career. And I told you this when you started, when you get to month 9, you really start to feel like the momentum of things shifting, but only if you've been consistent with the inputs and the cultivation of things, because it's earth speed. Like this job moves at a certain pace and you can't shortcut it. There are no shortcuts to that, right. And I think you have seen that.